What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ExPats. Unfortunately, Josh couldn't be here today, so Lucas Colby is back in the chat.
Yep, it's trying to slide. Goddamn. Hello, I'm your host now, ladies and gents, Joshua Downey. Sitting here at a beautiful day in Atlanta, Georgia, where the Notre Dame Fighting Irish have just pulled off a brilliant upset over the Georgia Bulldogs. I am 72 miles away from Athens, Georgia, and that distance is not safe. If Georgia players drive like they do after winning championships, Lord knows how bad they're going to drive after losing to Notre Dame in the quarterfinal of the college football playoff. So I will be specifically renting Ubers from Cybertruck from here on out. I do not trust my safety on the road, but I will party it up in my apartment like we did back in quarantine. We're so back, baby. Let's go. Riley Leonard, I hated your ass. I thought you were a bum at Duke, partially because I'm a bitter ACC man. But now, you know what? This will be my Cam Scataboo. How about that, Lucas? Riley Leonard, third-round draft pick. Let's move on from Drake May. Nick Wright was saying this is obviously not serious. Calm down. I was about to go on a whole Nick Wright adjacent rant. If y'all, anyone who actually decides to listen to this podcast, saw this past week, Nick Wright suggested that we take Shadur with the number 1 overall pick, trade Drake May for a top 5 pick, draft Travis Hunter, and then sign Deion Sanders to be our next head coach. So that's lunacy. That's ridiculous. No, I do not want Riley Leonard within 500 yards of my football team. But I'm extremely excited that one team that I have a passive interest in, thanks to my late grandfather, who was a big Irish man. Pretty much every guy that grew up with a Catholic grandfather in New England, probably in some way, shape, or form, likes the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and they pulled off the big upset against them dogs. And it feels good because the Patriots have pulled off, little to nothing for us this season, and we're going to talk about it. So let's go into it. I am done on this victory rant. I don't care nearly enough about college football to actually devote any more time to this, frankly.
No, it was cool watching that. I was a big fan of your boy Riley Leonard. I think he actually looked pretty good yesterday. The quarterback run. Guy ran for like 70 yards, and every time he was like running people over, and it just showed you're in college.
Lord knows he's not a crisp passer of the football. If you watch a Notre Dame game this year, it was he was showing off some two-way. He was showing off some athleticism for sure, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll be very interesting to talk about Georgia heading into the upcoming year, especially given Carson Beck's declaration for the NFL draft, Jalen Milroe's declaration for the NFL draft. Where those guys fall, what it might mean for teams, in the late single digits in terms of if they're willing to just, not take a risk this year and trade up and just get one of those mediocre guys in round 3, let them rip for a year, and then maybe get their quarterback of the future in 2026 or 2027. So maybe we can have little discussions about that. But, honestly, college football, given how interesting of a season we've had with the Patriots in the NFL, college football has kind of, held its own this year and given us a lot of, talking points and intrigue, especially as we, have become, draft guys, which as Patriots fans can attest to, we didn't give 2 craps about the draft for like the last 20 years. It didn't matter. I mean, we were just going to pick 32nd and we were going to take a guard, and that's just what happened.
Trading back first. You forgot the most important part.
What's that?
Trading back first.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I apologize. Yeah. Trading out of the first round or trading from like 25 to 30. It was, look, even if we didn't win the Super Bowl and we didn't have the number 1 seed, we still tried to trade to get that 32nd sweet spot right there, because that's where we could take a guy like a N'Keal Harry, a Sony Michel.
Didn't he pick number 32? I'm pretty sure N'Keal Harry was straight up.
N'Keal Harry was 32, I think, right?
I'm pretty sure you're right. That's
who did we draft in the Sony Michel draft? Because we got 2 guys in the first round that year. Oh my God, that D tackle. What's his name? No, it was Malcolm. No, Malcolm Brown wasn't that round. It was a guard, I want to say. Anyway, we don't have to guess at Patriots drafts of the past, because we have to look forward to the Patriots draft of the future. We're doing a little whatever, if you want to call it, a preview of the Bills game. Honestly, Lucas and I were talking before the show, and we both kind of mutually decided that it was just like, I think we're tired of previews.
Yeah. I'm not with it this week. We're not talking about the JV. And the thing about the Bills JV is that they would whoop our starters ass. I don't know if we've agreed on the A word, but they would whoop our starters ass. And
I called Riley Leonard hot ass earlier in the
yeah,
in the podcast, so I think the A word flies.
A and the base C.
The hell's the base C? I don't like
Yeah,
that. Oh
correct.
yeah, crap. That's not even a that's a non-starter of a word. That's like
That's
preschool
a
word.
Bills JV.
If you grew up in Massachusetts, you've been saying that word since you were in diapers.
I don't give a crap. No, yeah, I have no interest in talking about this Bills game for any more than this few seconds interaction. And I mean, if you want to say something that like Drake May should start, in my opinion. Like I think it's big for him to still get reps. I don't think he should be out there that long. I still want to see Joe Milton, but other than that, like I do not care. I think I'm even gonna try to go to the game this weekend because tickets are like actually $30, and I mean I'm just going literally to just hope I bump into somebody cool, and like this is more of a networking thing than even going to watch a football game. This is not, and I love to watch football. I'll watch freaking random MAC 10 games on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Like I have no interest in this
You
game.
watch Penn State, Boise State.
Yeah, seriously. And like,
Even though that wasn't a bad game. I mean, it's not as bad as I think the score indicated, but yeah, I mean, how sad is it that like Patriots tickets? It used to be every game sold out for like 15 plus years, and you couldn't get them for cheaper than like an NBA playoff ticket price. And now and now it costs about as much to go to a Pats game as you can go to like a mid-May Red Sox game at 2:30 on a Thursday. Like that's tough. That's tough. I mean, that's definitely an exaggeration on my part, but I mean,
a
it is kind
double
of
header
showing
would be
how
cool.
difficult. I mean, you and I were both there. We weren't together, but you and I were both there for the last game of the season last year, Bill's last game. And granted, the weather was bad, but it was depressingly empty. Like it
It
was
was like one side of the stadium.
it felt like the fall of Rome, dude. It was like
Yeah.
watching the dynasty completely crumble. It was just being up there and watching just emptiness all throughout. And it was football weather. It was so
Yeah.
fun. It was straight up football weather, and like people just didn't show up. They didn't care. And you know what? We put up 3 points against the Jets, so I don't even blame them. Like that was an atrocious game, just awful.
Yeah.
Uh, so when
No,
it comes to this Bills preview, I think we can go over some like actives, inactives.
hit me up
Maybe
with
if you want to mention a guy or two you want to see, and I can give you the
that. Braden
same thing.
Wallace. I'd
Caden
like to
Wallace,
see
he's on the
him.
injury report, like half
Alright.
our team. So yeah,
Then
we got
that maybe like Polk and Baker. Like I think that'd be cool to get. But
Polk's not going to play. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking going into this week, I was like, if I can just see Joe Milton and Javon Baker and Jalen Polk actually just get some reps in the game, I was like, even though this is a complete lost season for both those receivers, and it's been more
oh
than a
yeah,
disaster for Polk, but Ben Brown and Gonzo, have both not practiced all week with a concussion, and I think Polk has a shoulder injury, and he hasn't practiced all week, so he's
the
about
baddest.
as well and good as out.
Yeah.
So this might be one of the worst seasons we've ever seen from a Patriots receiver, and we saw N'Keal Harry, which is sad. Drake, Duggar, Hunter Henry, Pep, Jennings, they were all limited participants this week. I mean, AVP seemed pretty strong in his assertion that Drake May would start, and Mayo suggested it. I agree with you that like it's important that he starts, if anything, for like a ceremonial thing, and that like especially when your team is bad, you can't just single out certain guys that you want to protect more than others, even if obviously he's the most important asset to the future of the organization. I still think that it's in our best interest if Drake May suits up, runs a couple drives, but by the start of that second quarter, I don't want to see him anymore.
I'm done. Like
Yeah. And it sucks because I
hopefully
really want to see as much Drake as I can because I know we're not getting him until September. And that hurts. But I
yeah,
also want to see Drake in
he'll play
September, and I don't want to see him with a cast on the sideline. So like
August. We'll get some. It's only
I just mean like an NFL action. Like we had a lot of fun with the preseason this year because we were like, oh, our shiny new toy, our rookie quarterback. Oh, but like I'm hoping we get to the point like we did during the dynasty. It's not going to be obviously as exaggerated, but we're going to be like, I don't give a damn about the preseason. Like,
in terms of Drake May, but like the rest of the team, I definitely care about the preseason. We need to
I
see.
mean, true. I just hate the preseason. Dude. I miss hating on the preseason. I miss when teams like actually cared about the preseason, and none of those teams were doing the Patriots.
Like what's the Ravens? They won like 30 straight games in the preseason or
I
something.
remember like the Giants would go like have like pretty stellar
4-0.
preseason records and then just absolutely crap the bed. Yeah, I mean, hey, if I get to watch Travis Hunter next preseason, maybe I'll be a little more excited. But we can talk more about that. More about that later, depending on what direction you want to go. I do have some NFL news today. I was kind of doing some scouting on the old journalist sites.
Hit me.
The
What do you got?
ever venerable X, where I get all my all my information. But
You do.
if you're
Nice.
if you're consulting Evan Rappaport or Ian Rappaport, Evan Lazar, you're probably in the right place. Give
Heck yeah,
Lazar
you are.
boy a shout out. And I want to call you out later specifically because your guy Evan Lazar seemed to be high on Emeka Egbuka, who you weren't big on, and now Lazar is
No.
like, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting him, and I bet your opinion has probably changed in 24 hours now that Evan
Nope.
Lazar's is also. It's weak sauce, dude.
Nope.
I
This is,
I like.
I'm telling you, we're diverging a little bit. He and I are seeing the things a little bit. We agree on Abdul Carter, but did you hear them talk about Brian Thomas Jr.?
What were
They
they saying?
little bit. They were both like, he has all the makings of a superstar. Josh and I got into a 4 or 5 hour argument the other night.
We got off the phone at 5 in the morning
Yeah, and
on New
about
Year's Day. Yeah.
where
It wasn't that I discredited Brian Thomas Jr. It's funny, I actually had the same argument with a coworker that's a big LSU fan yesterday. Like I posed him the same debate and he was like he knows what he's talking about football, but he was also just like Brian Thomas Jr. had more yards and touchdowns in college. And I'm like, all right, I hate that argument. It's a stupid argument. Because first of all, that's like being like Drew Brees had more passing yards than every quarterback in the NFL, so he automatically was better than Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I think it's stupid. It's situational. It's very much schematic. But also, who was the quarterback of that prime like LSU Tigers team in the last 2.5 years?
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, where are Jaden Daniels' strengths in terms of like accuracy? Where's hot zones at? Yes.
Throwing the
So I
ball
mean,
downfield to a weapon like Brian Thomas Jr.
precisely, but that just means that
Now
like Brian
we're
Thomas is going
reconnecting
to
doing
have
this
like
whole
way more
thing.
air yards, on his completions. I mean, I would probably say you're right. Like he's a better contested deep ball catcher than Malik Willis potentially, but it's like I don't know. For me, it's like saying the difference between Jamar Chase and T Higgins, except Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of like an elevated T Higgins in terms of his route running. Uh, and I think some other like fine details of his game that I think he can even improve on. Like he can be definitely a top 10 receiver next year potentially. Uh, but I think Malik Neighbors is a dog. Did I call Malik Willis earlier?
Yes, you
Beside
did.
the point. Oh
I think
God,
Willis is a dog, though.
you let that
But
slide. Not he's not Malik Neighbors. But I was
he's
just
not.
like, let's not be little like hoes for the stat sheet, and let's actually look at like their physical attributes, the way they played the game, and
I
Malik
think
Neighbors
he's
is a
just
dog. However, this season you can't argue that Brian Thomas hasn't had the best rookie season out of any receiver, which he has, like undoubtedly so.
you got to see this. I'm telling you, next year they're gonna be. He's gonna be. I think they're all gonna be really good again next year. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. is gonna be on a. I liked him. We were talking about this the other night. I liked him way earlier last year. My whole plan, honestly, like if we weren't gonna take Drake, was to trade back BTJ and Michael Penix at the same. Like that's what I was looking for. But I'm still happy with the Drake decision. Don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah, because we knew Malik Neighbors wouldn't be available in the early 20s of the draft.
But even then, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is that much of a steal. Like I know
Oh,
that
he's a steal. He's a steal for sure. For sure. That's going to go down as a very economical pick. Like, that's just, getting him at
23.
23 is brilliant.
Yeah,
Especially after, the whole Calvin Ridley saga kind of ended on an underwhelming note
agreed.
going into the year. But, yeah, he's fantastic. I think we don't necessarily need to rehash, like, a former LSU receiver argument here. I just think that let's get I don't even think. Let me put it this way: I don't think Malik Neighbors has had a passer of the football as good as Mac Jones this year, and that is damning. That is so sad that Brian Thomas has had two
All right.
quarterbacks that are probably better pure passers than anyone that's on the Giants roster. And Drew Lock can put up a 5 touchdown game, whatever the hell he did last week. I do not care. I'll believe it when I see it.
Of course.
Like what if like let's get a little consistency. But I think like oh my, if Drake May had Malik Neighbors on it, like Malik Neighbors would fulfill the role that we're trying to thrust upon Kayshon Boutte. Like that is literally
Yeah.
like Kayshon Boutte is Walmart Malik Neighbors. Like in every way, shape, or form. And if oh my God, if we just had anyone with a remote skill set and talent level of a guy like that on this team, we'd be looking at Drake May in the Rookie of the Year conversations. I don't think he would have, even with an A1 receiver, like beat out Jaden Daniels for the award, just because I think like we were never going to win 10 plus games. Like, it was impossible. This roster is so bad.
Yeah.
And people compared the Washington roster to ours, and that is looking like night and day different. The disparity between these two teams.
Like Adam Peters is just we should have everything
I know.
that he did. I was just like,
Yeah.
I mean, especially like Cliff Kingsbury. Like, I do not think he's a good coach. Like my dad and I were talking about the other day. He was like, I love Cliff Kingsbury, and I was just like, no, no, I can't do that.
Let's see after 1 year. Like the whole thing with Cliff Kingsbury is he has fun with his little tools. He runs a stripped back college style offense with a young quarterback for a year or two. And let's see when it starts to fall apart, because inevitably with a Cliff Kingsbury offense, the numbers start to dip, the production starts to dip, you get found out. I think Jaden Daniels is. I don't want to be too premature here, but I think he's just a better player than Kyler Murray, and I think he probably will end up being, having the more prolific NFL career. So we're dealing with kind of a different beast here, and I don't want to necessarily hold him to the same standard. But I do agree, like this Commanders organization with the new ownership group, which was huge after Schneider let him go. Bringing in Adam Peters, like that is just like. Oh, infuriating, because that was, those were calls the Patriots should have been making. Like, because there were obviously, like, jobs, like the Chicago job was more desirable heading into the year. I don't think, like, maybe you could say the new ownership kind of spurred some, like, some of what made this new job enticing for guys like Dan Quinn, Kingsbury, and Peters, but it's just like, I feel like if you put together enough of, like, a pitch, especially with an organization with the history of success like ours. Like, I don't like some of these other organizations that beat us out for top candidates when it came to the head coaching market, and which clearly we didn't really do our due diligence and actually, like this was just kind of a, as Lazar put it, like a handshake deal. So it was kind of not really in good faith that we even had the position open. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of why we pushed Belichick out the door, was because we had that kind of succession plan. Whether or not we kind of resorted to using it earlier than we needed to is a whole nother topic of conversation that we'll probably talk about today. But this segues into I forgot to even say what I was saying earlier about perusing the old X, but
oh shoot. Okay.
No, you're cool. Vrabel is interviewing at the Jets facility today. Just thought you should know. Let me ruin your day. They interviewed Ron Rivera on Thursday. There are rumors in the rumor mill that they will be interviewing Arthur Smith and Rex Ryan. I don't know how true those are. The Rex one would be interesting. Nothing would make me happier than for the Jets to hire Rex Ryan in some capacity. Nothing would make me happier. That would, like, I'm looking at the Vrabel thing and I want to crap my pants, but I see the Rex Ryan and that's when I'm doing like the ooh. And this one's interesting. They interviewed Louis Riddick for the GM job.
I mean, I thought you were about to say the coaching job. Like, I guess so. Like, let's just get the whole NFL.
Thing is, we just don't know what he's going to look like. I like Louis Riddick. I think he's one of the best at his craft in terms of being an analyst for ESPN. Like, he's really kind of made a name for himself and is great at being a talking head when it comes to both college and professional football. So I have a lot of respect for him. I'd hate to see him go, like, from ESPN, especially after they did a lot of purging when it came to on-air personnel these past couple of years for budget cuts and whatnot. I don't know exactly why, but that would suck. But I honestly don't know if he'd do a good job. So I mean, by all means, hire a former analyst. Like, go for it.
Doing it is way different than talking about it. Like, you and I are talking about it right now. Do you think we could actually get it done? I don't know. Like,
no.
Well, like, but there's something to be. Here's my thing. Like, at the end of the day, it is just football. Like, the eye test is a lot of it, and like.
Well, it's also what's up here.
Yeah. But, like, I feel like a lot of the time, like, people are just, like, especially towards the end of the dynasty and, like, the last couple of years, it's just been way too overcomplicated. And it's just, like, go get the guy, man. Like, it's, like, I feel like looking
Cole Strange was the guy, and look what happened. You know, like it's just like sometimes the guy never like everyone thought you take Cole Strange at the end of the first round. Like that was literally like Sean McVay was saying it. He was caught
Yeah.
on leaked audio being like, you got to get Cole Strange should have been a top 15 pick. I mean, he's such a steal. And Bill Belichick said, let me not overthink this. Let me take my guy. Let me go get him. And you know, sometimes they turn out to be centers, and that's okay.
But it's just like you make it so much more difficult than it needs to be. Like I can't get over that. Like
Yeah,
I don't
no.
know.
Well, I'll give Elliot Wolf if he does remain in house, which honestly I would not mind if he wasn't. But if he does remain in house, uh, I'm gonna give him this draft, but especially this early free agency because you know we have you know if we do finish out with the number one pick and we have Drake May, there's value in you know whatever positions we have, both you know front office coaching as well as just like being a free agent signing with the team. So like if they aren't able to get some people to bite on the player side of things, like you know, we need to start making changes on the you know front office side of things. So
Well,
uh,
I just feel like, granted, like you do have Drake May and you do have the most cap space, but like we lost out to Tennessee last year over Calvin Ridley and $30 million. Like
but that's because we didn't know what we had. Like we were in a worse like all right. Uh,
for sure, we were in a worse.
it's
But
hard to say because the defense is playing like I think below what it's capable of. I'm not saying it's a top 15 defense, but it's not. I don't find it to be a bottom five defense. Like in terms of personnel, now in terms of performance, it is by far one of the worst in the league. And it's just like maybe those things kind of turn the tide a little bit. But after seeing Drake May, you know the positives from his game, the positives from Gonzo, just the fact that we have like all this cap space. I mean, you know, we have good draft picks heading into the year, and we generally have stability from an ownership standpoint, where a lot of these organizations don't. Like those historically are like incentives, like especially for young coaches, but for guys to want to come in and build your organization from the ground up. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. We'll really see how much that you know, actually weighs into you know the free agency period this year because the amount of times I've heard T Higgins' name on the mouths of
I
you
know.
know Patriots media members, you know ourselves included. Uh, if we don't get him, then it's just like we've just wasted 12 months just talking ourselves into having faith in
Fine.
a front office that has not provided us any sort of you know grounds for it.
Yeah. Well, my thing is just like I wouldn't even be like honestly, I would not be surprised one bit if we don't sign him because like
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I have very little confidence. Like I feel like I've seen a lot on Twitter that it's like a done deal and like we're number one, and I feel like on all the betting sites
That's literally from just a financial
it's
standpoint as well.
just to get the money from New England and to it's for clicks. Like we're signing the like
Oh man, I mean the thing is the Bengals have such stingy ownership, so I wouldn't really put it like apparently they're favorites to sign him. No, wait, I'm looking at different betting odds here. Uh, but if I was him, I'd want to stay with Joe Burrow,
me
you
too.
know, for as long as possible. The thing is, I don't think a team that's that porous defensively can afford to sign him and Jamar Chase in the same offseason.
Agreed.
So
No,
that's not going to happen.
I something's got to happen in terms of
Yeah.
personnel and ownership, and because I cannot like if another year goes by where it's just glaring holes on top of glaring holes where like we as
Hmm.
fans and media members are calling these things out like and then like picks that we're saying would be good turn out to be like hits in the league and you pass up on him for Jalen Polk or freaking Caden Wallace or like 2 years ago I can't remember who the guy was that we drafted in front of DeJuan Jones. But like if something like that happens again, like you might as well put Evan Lazar at offensive coordinator and Mike Dussault at defensive coordinator and Fred Kirsch in charge of the whole thing. Like
Remember the year we went double tight end and took Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene?
what? It's just
It's
it's.
just, and again, that's the Belichick led era. I'm not trying to, you know, necessarily pin it to who the guys we have up there, even though there is some holdover. But it's just, you know,
But even then, even if it's that you're hiring from within, like you just take a look at this draft and like it's clear that there are going to be like I don't think Javon Baker's going to catch on.
We
Came
better see some of them this week. There's no reason not. There's no reason not to see like a snap. And look, I bet you he has trouble, you know,
lining
with
up.
under scheming. Yeah, probably like with with having an understanding of defensive formation. Understanding the offense. Like it seems like there's just a lot of fundamental things that he's behind on, let alone the physical attributes. And having a probably it's hard to even comment on it because we don't see any of them. But like a minor drop issue,
Hmm.
but just see him out in the field. Like, might as well just put him up against other people that don't play, which the Bills are going to be rolling out there, especially as they're trying to get healthy for the playoffs. And they got some guys coming back. They got a starting LB coming off IR. I want to say I'm forgetting his name, but they're resting up and they're getting ready. They're reloading, and we just see what we have in some of these young guys, and that's why it would benefit us to see Milton. Uh, and
It's Joe
to
Milton.
see that if Joe Milton isn't the guy, maybe we should just draft Carson Beck in the second round.
Don't say that. I
I'm
would.
kidding.
I hate. You probably didn't even see it, but they like cut to him so many times last night, and he's
No, of
wearing this
course.
hat, and it's like pulled down to here, and he's just like the kid throws a touchdown pass, it cuts to him, and he's just standing there.
Yeah, yeah, he sucks, dude.
But
He
like
sucks,
the
and I
funny
liked watching him suck while living in Georgia. It's been kind of fun.
oh, it's the best. But they cut to him, and he just has all his hair poking out the back like that. I was crying laughing the whole like it was just tufts of hair out the back.
Did you see how those some of them could just be edited, and I don't want to necessarily spread misinformation, but like there's pics of like him snapping girls,
Yeah.
and they're just egregious. The things that he says, like some of the things, I'm like, I hope they are real because if they're not, like I would feel bad for him for getting like done so dirty. But some of them are awful, dude. So bad,
Uh,
scummy.
the Ryan Williams one's hysterical.
I
But
haven't seen the Ryan Williams once.
after this, look it up because it's not worth us getting into it on this
Yeah,
podcast. Viewers who have seen the Ryan Williams text are going to be laughing at this here, Cliff.
damn, I imagine just like being like a 22-year-old college senior and this like 17-year-old scrawny little shrimp is just like, I'm gonna beep, you beep, beep.
And
Bro, I'm
like,
gonna treat you right. It's like you just took fifth period English like 2 months ago. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't even technically do 4 years of high school, and
yeah,
he's kind of that guy. Ryan Williams would be a generational. I mean, he technically can be a generational prospect if he obviously wasn't in Jeremiah Smith's
dude,
draft class.
Williams is a generational prospect. So is what this face, Marvin Harrison. It's okay.
What'd you say?
We have a lot of generational talent lately, but
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
4 years.
Jeremiah Smith is actually generational talent. Like,
Actually, the best receiver prospect of all time, and with
it's crazy. The people there are like,
of all
he's
time.
probably he's already better than Marvin Harrison. Some people have said
He
it has
is.
been spoken, which is crazy, dude. But also, like,
It's true. Like
from a production standpoint, no one I think has had a better rookie season than Jeremiah Smith. Like, he's ridiculous.
he's unbelievable, and
Like his physical attributes for being like a freshman are ridiculous. It's like
exactly.
Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is like playing out of body, whereas Jeremiah Smith is playing in body, but his body just makes no sense for like how old he is, like how mature he is, how like how crisp from his route running is. Like he is just like the ultimate wide receiver.
All that stuff is awesome, and like really is like actually at the top of like college for sure, and like I think would be a top 15
Yeah,
receiver. They yak, dude.
yeah,
The part that people really don't talk about is the yak. This kid breaks tackles at 6'3", 215, and he
yeah.
turns the corner. I'm not saying juke or anything, but like he gets up. He beats angles, and that's all you need. Like it's impressive. Oh my gosh. I love
Lord knows you're a big you're a big contact balance tackle breaker guy after your whole ASU rant last week.
it.
Which that was me joking about Riley Leonard. I'm hoping is you joking about Cam
I'm
Scatterby.
not.
You have to be joking.
I would take some guy commented on the cliff yesterday.
I know, and that's how I knew you were wrong. Was when we had one comment because we don't have any sort of fan or followership. We have one comment, and the guy's like, "He's 100% a Patriot." It's like I don't give a damn. Like what? Like I don't like. Okay, he could have been a dynasty Patriot that we take in the fifth round in a year where we have Tom Brady, Gronk, and Jules line. Like this is not. We
You're
can't.
telling me you wouldn't want to hear. Zolak scream, "The wild scat!"
No, I
Takes
don't.
it in for another one.
Oh, that's good. So then we just have to figure out what to do with Ramondre, who probably has minimal trade value after this year, but still somehow is one of our best offensive players. Because Lord knows those two in the same backfield makes 0 sense. 0 sense.
Just a bad cop and worse cop. That's what I.
Also, like if you look at some of like at least I was doing some PFF perusing of the tackles. Our tackles are worse run blockers than they are pass blockers. So let's instead of Lord, like I doubt we're gonna do like really like an impressive amount of retooling on the line. We're gonna have a rough line next year. It's gonna be better, I hope, knock on wood, but it's gonna be rough. So we might as well invest in the areas where the line has like less than mediocre performance rather than bottom of the league worst. In fact, let me read you some, because I was doing some research for a little segment we're going to do for our end of season rewards. And let me say this. I exempted the tackles from LVP, the least valuable player, because I think it's redundant at this point. You can do it. No, you can do it. I'm saying I did mine differently. Like I approached my least valuable player from a different angle, and I kind of did it so that I wouldn't take whatever you did, because I have a specific player that I don't think is much of a surprise, but is also, not necessarily as bad as these tackles. But, oh man, dude. DeMontre Jacobs ranks 134th out of 138 tackles in the NFL with 10 penalties and 8 sacks allowed. And in terms of total pressure allowed is 137th out of 138. Now, let it be known, I do not think PFF is gospel. They have Christian Gonzalez, the 17th ranked corner in the NFL. Which, by the way, still is pretty damn good, given that we have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. And some of the guys, elected into the Pro Bowl, which we can also talk about, our resident Pro Bowl snub, were actually ranked lower in terms of PFF. So, again, PFF is not a catch-all, but it is just, particularly with, I think, linemen more so than other positions, it's a pretty good way to just, like, kind of calculate, like, pressures, run block win rate, stuff like that, like, actually you can, like, measurably, like, do the math on, whereas with corners, I think it's a little trickier sometimes. But just bottom 4 in the league, like, and that's, like, there aren't 138 tackles playing, like, in the league in a given week. So a lot of that is just counting guys that have had, like, a couple snaps here and there that probably weren't even, like, second string tackles. Like, that is our starting right tackle week in and week out. And Vidarian Lowe, who I was almost as a meme gonna like add him as my comeback player of the year.
Good.
But here's the thing: the first 5 weeks of the season, he would have been my comeback player of the year. Like he was ranked 100th out of 138 with a 4.9 overall grade, whereas DeMontre Jacobs was rocking a 38.7 overall grade.
Jesus.
And his run block win rate, his run block grade was 43, his pass block 41. So the grade he has is actually lower as a pass blocker, but that is like better statistically on average, like 10 slots higher in terms of who has played in the NFL. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's obviously probably statistically when you're a tackle, it's probably easier to get a higher grade, in the run game. So that's why it's measurably a little higher on average. But just Vidarian Lowe, meanwhile, his pass block grade was actually 66.9, which is good for 63rd out of 138, which, again, I would like to be able to go into the actual minutia of these statistics, but you have to pay for a PFF subscription, which until we make any sort of money on this freaking platform, I'm not doing that. So I'm just going to go based on superficial statistics, which, again, I don't value as much for skill position players, but for tackles, I'm fine with. But Vidarian Lowe is a full 20 points lower, 46.3 in his run block grade. That's good for 129 out of 138. So we have two of the worst run blocking tackles in the NFL, which, given the instability we've had on the interior, isn't really saying like much. It's not like, but at least we have Michael Jordan and, the oft underperforming Mike Onwenu, or, we got Ben Brown in there. It's bad. Like, it's really, really bad. And where I'll give Vidarian Lowe some love is this. And this is why, again, exempt is a strong word. I think it's just too obvious to say they're our least valuable players, because we're in a position where we had nothing else we could do. So they are pretty commensurate to what their value was going into the season and what we thought they could provide. And in some ways, at least for Vidarian Lowe, was probably slightly better, specifically in the pass game as a blocker than I think we thought he would be. And I almost gave him my most improved if we were doing a first quarter of the season, because last season he was like statistically the worst tackle in the NFL. And this year, his I think continuity after a couple weeks enabled AVP and Gerard to hand the baton over to Drake. Because that's basically why Drake wasn't starting the first 5 or so weeks of the season, was just because we had no continuity or stability on the offensive line, and we didn't want him to get murdered, which I think in hindsight we can look back and say Drake didn't get murdered this year, largely due to his athleticism, but he didn't get murdered. And for what it's worth, I will give Vidarian Lowe a flower for that. That him stepping in there and doing better than we thought while still being bad enabled us to, see our young quarterback probably like 5 or so weeks earlier than we might have had it just been like a complete and utter carousel, specifically at the tackles, but also on the interior.
No, I think it's interesting to bring up all those stats because, like, obviously, yeah, they've been awful and awful, and there's no excusing that, and it's definitely frustrating to watch because you obviously want so much more for Drake and this team in general. As we've seen over the last 20 years, it's been consistency for as long as we can remember. But we've also said this countless times. At least Vidarian Lowe is he's not quitting. He's putting the team up, like he's going out there and he's giving his all every week, and it shows that he's not just a freaking traffic cone out there, and like obviously a lot of times like he does just get beat around the corner, but like he's not supposed to be a starting, and him and DeMontre Jacobs being out there is not an indictment on how they are as football players in the grand scheme of things. It's more of a we can't be putting our franchise quarterback, the guy that we're about to invest $60 million a year annually into, to be like hit within 3-4 seconds from both sides. It's not. It's more an indictment on Elliott Wolf and the history of Bill Belichick's drafting the last few years. So that's my thing with it. But
I would be fine keeping Vidarian Lowe as a 3rd or 4th tackle next season. Like I'd be happy with that if we had that depth. He is our. I wouldn't.
I would be upset.
DeMontre Jacobs, I'm sold on him, dude. He's out. He can't. I don't think he's an NFL tackle, frankly. I think Denver realized that pretty quickly last year, and I think we would have, moved on quickly if it wasn't for Vidarian Lowe is our number 1 tackle, and he should be 3rd at best on an okay team from a depth perspective. So, but I'm more than happy to have him next year.
AVP just doesn't do anything to help them, and I think that's also an indictment on.
Well, maybe it's a Scott Peters thing as well. It's not
I think the play calling's bad, and like. There's ways to hide a bad line, and like obviously it's easy to pick up on that. And I think a game that we actually got wrecked because of that was the 49ers game. But
yeah,
go ahead.
It's funny. It's like week in and week out, I have a different gripe generally with AVP. I think you're right. Like I think your big thing has been like the play calling, the sequencing has just seemed like completely haphazard throughout the year, and I think you're right for saying that. But sometimes like. You get a glimmer of some play design, and then you get like that pitch play to, to Pop or to Ramondre or to Hunter Henry, who also somehow got in Drake's face, which not enough people talk about the fact that I think Drake's vision was impeded by that. It wasn't even like a motion for Hunter Henry in the backfield, but it just was like a disaster. And it's like, did you actually practice this? Like you can't scheme it up that way. And I was hearing Lazar and Barth talk about it on Catch 22, and they were kind of like, the Lions run similar sets, similar plays like that. Generally, it's a straight handoff in the backfield, and we're trying to throw a pitch when you got 3 guys moving in different directions, and it's just a mess. And you can't you can't design a play like that when you're also dealing with a young quarterback. Like you can maybe put a bunch of levers in there when you're working with Mahomes, who has eyes in the back of his head, but let's develop those characteristics of Drake before we completely go off the rails. And that maybe is why Ben Johnson, we might be jumping ahead of ourselves if we try to make Ben Johnson the head coach next year. But that's kind of a different topic of conversation. I still would love to see him. And you and I agreed watching that Lions 49ers game last week that, we would do anything to watch him. Just some of his offense in New England. But how he'll be as a head coach, we don't know. We know how Vrabel is as a head coach, though, and that's kind of been that's the hot topic of the week in New England sports media. It seems like.
Um. Do you want to go ahead with there's one other thing I wanted to talk about actually.
Yeah.
Before we get into with the awards and everything. Just Gonzo and like Schooler making it like
Yeah.
I feel like Schooler's had a good season, but I wouldn't say like Pro Bowl. It's just like it feels like they're just being like Patriots fans must have just pushed him in. Like I don't think.
I think half of that comes with like I think a lot of that has come with. Sorry, I just got a text. And I hate to say it because it didn't really work in the case of Gonzo, but just like the one or two nationally televised Patriots games you get, and like, or just if you're watching because we're playing in your market in terms of broadcast, like the guys kind of they kind of stroke his ego, I should put it. Off the time, they're like Schooler's one of the best, special teamers in the NFL, and they say it pretty consistently. And I feel like honestly that narrative is enough for people. I mean, the voting for the Pro Bowl is so broken as it is, and I'm like, it really does depress me that Travis Kelce is the highest fan vote out of everyone, literally because he's dating a pop star. Like that's infuriating. Like there needs to be checks and balances, dude. Like that is like Travis Kelce's one of those guys where he's like a top 3 tight end of all time, and I think he's earned the right to be in the Pro Bowl every year, kind of like a D Wade or Dirk at the end of their career, if you want. Like I'm willing to give that pass because him and Mahomes are just that good. But Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football this year, and behind him, Trey McBride was far better. And there are other guys that I think were just more productive, and the Pro Bowl is just not indicative of talent, and I think we'll find that out come like the All Pro release, the release of the All Pro teams, and I think we see Gonzo on the second team. I think we have to, and I think that'll be indicative of his, of his talent. Hopefully.
I don't even think it's really worth addressing. Like it sucks that Gonzo didn't get picked. We've all talked about it a ton. I think he's one of the best corners in football. It's just unfortunate situation with him being on a 3-13 team or 14, whatever the hell we are.
And the secondary being as poor as it is, like that's tough. It makes you have and like with a 17 graded PFF grade when in reality you're like a top 6 corner in the NFL. Yeah. Well, yeah, probably. I mean, like he had some rough weeks this year, but it's also like any A player in their first 20 games isn't going to be perfect, and B that pulls the entirety of the slack on the secondary because guys like Jonathan Jones just obviously aren't the contributors they once were. But we love Gonzo, and the more he's slept on, the more it's going to fuel him. Hopefully, again, he has only played like 20 games. He's going to finish with 4 games last year and 16 games 15 games this year. So he's still he played 19 games in his NFL career.
Yeah.
There's a lot to look forward to with him.
Heck yeah. All I know is it's going to be a ride wave off season for the boy. All right, yeah. You want to get into these awards though?
Yeah. So do we start top to bottom or bottom to top? We might have more fun with the bottom, so maybe we start with the top.
Okay, then let's start with the top then. All right.
All right. I have my MVP. Who is your MVP?
You want me to go for? All right, let's do it. I think I'm picking the obvious one. Wouldn't be surprised if you also picked it, but Drake obviously has had it's been cool to watch him. It's been cool to see him develop. From the moment he stepped on the field, like I remember week 6 or whatever it was, like I remember talking, like my buddies were talking crap to me, and then like he goes down, he throws that dart to Kayshon Boutte right before half, and like from that moment on, like I just like you knew watching this kid play that he was going to be something special, and it's cool to watch him develop. I'm really excited to see where his career goes. I think once you get a better play caller and better players around him and all this stuff, and we start to see him really get into it, I think he'll be competing in for MVP votes in a few years. So,
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to argue with you there. I actually had a different MVP, and I mean, it's kind of if it wasn't one, it was the other. I went Christian Gonzalez with this one. If anything, because like we're as I said, like again, I don't really count Pro Bowl for much, especially not anymore. It's ridiculous. Mac Jones is an alternate the other year, but we're looking at this. We're looking at the entire roster, 53-man roster, and we're going, one of these guys is probably going to be an All Pro. One of those guys is Christian Gonzalez, and literally our defense is so bad that if we didn't have him, we'd probably like most assuredly be 32nd out of 32 teams in terms of yardage allowed, defensive efficiency, pretty much any metric. Like he has had, like, any win we had this year was, like, you look at it and Gonzo was locked down. Like, I mean, week one, Jamar, I know Jamar was coming off injury and he was holding out and yada, yada, yada. He did nothing. Look, the Jets game, Garrett Wilson did nothing. Nada. I mean, look at – yeah, but, I mean, it was nothing. And that was a great ball by Rodgers, if you remember. But
you're right.
I'm talking about the Jets win.
Yeah.
When we beat the Jets, he was doing nothing.
Locked
that Jet slots, yeah, he got that tough touchdown.
But even
lockdown on Marvin Harrison, which again I don't think is impressive as some of the other guys, but absolutely locked him. The only thing they could do was in like the first quarter, like scheme up, a crosser where they just have like a rub pick where Trey McBride is bumping Gonzo and then Marvin gets like 20 yards. Gonzo wasn't perfect. But as you said, he's good enough to be considered like a top 3 to 5 corner in the NFL. And on a team that is so devoid of talent, devoid of players that both in zone and man can really like strap in and lock these guys down. Like without him, like we don't have 3 wins. And and if anything, part of it is Drake had some rookie bumps, and I think Gonzo again like only played 4 games his rookie year. And has shown up to such a degree where week in and week out, people that know what they're talking about in football, not the people that vote for the Pro Bowl, they know he is already one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And it's a damn shame that he's on this defense, but thank God he is for our sake and for the future of this organization, because he like. And the other reason is that he played those first 4 games, and again we got a win, and we were competitive against Seattle. Granted, the DK kerfuffle was brutal, but I blame that more so on someone that will end up on a later part of this list, and you can probably do guessing as to who that is now. But I'm just gonna say like Gonzo has been our best player. I think Drake's like more valuable from like a technical standpoint, but Gonzo I think's been the MVP of the Patriots team this year, especially given the consistency and the fact that he's played every game up until this upcoming week, right? I don't think he's had any absences this year.
I don't think so either.
He's been on the injury report here and there. I don't remember, and it's just he's been the constant. And the games where he doesn't play well are like games of note. Like it's like wow, Gonzo, got burnt a couple times here and there. And when you think about it, you're probably like, the Chargers game started off rough. He didn't even have a chance to kind of correct himself before he got concussed. So
totally.
And I'm going to segue that. So I'll go with my comeback player of the year, because it's the same conversation. It's Christian Gonzalez. As I said earlier, but this is going to get redundant. I apologize. That's why I wanted to start good, because it's basically 2 players. But I mean, he had a torn labrum, dislocated shoulder, ended his 2023 season early. I mean, that's when you saw a lot of promise. You saw, everyone talked, he locked down Tyreek. That kind of conversation can really hurt a young player that has barely touched the field and that played well and has a lot of the physical tools, but missed far more games than he played his rookie year. And he came out swinging this year. So impressed. I mean, look at other guys around those draft classes. Look at guys like Caleb Farley. Like Gonzo is one of one. That's one of, Bill's parting gifts to us was giving us Christian Gonzalez and not, trying to take Caleb Farley, especially as he's a Virginia Tech guy. So I love watching, him. His demise, but Gonzo just coming off that injury is it's impressive, and I won't talk too much more about him because I've just talked about Gonzo for like 5 minutes. But do you have a comeback player of the year?
I didn't originally, but like off the top of my head, like I don't think it totally applies to comeback player of the year, but a guy who really didn't see too much in the way of playing time last year was like Keon White, and I think he obviously started the season off really hot, and it's dropped a lot since then, but I also think like he suffers from a lot of the same things that Gonzalez does and Drake does, where he's one of these better players, and you see him getting double teamed so freaking often. Whenever they cut to like a drop, like a over the head of the pocket, like you see him just getting the center sliding his way 90% of the time, and even when they don't, like he's probably like beating the guy and getting pressure. He's been really good. I think if you paired him with if there was a Judon, obviously for this team, or like somebody who actually went out and got sacks, it would be really cool to see. And I think next year, if God willing, we get like the right players in free agency, or like we take Abdul Carter, I think you see Keon White probably get a lot more recognition next year because he's a freak athlete and he's got the mentality where it's like this kid wants to win. And obviously some of the comments he's made in the press and have been maybe a little bit disconcerting to the coaching staff, but as a fan and you want guys like that who are
fired up.
Yeah, fired up and take initiative and want to be on a good team. So yeah, it's kind of the same reason I'm a big Drake guy. So
I think in a season like this, you're probably right. It's really hard to get a comeback player of the year. Gonzo makes obviously with the injury, that's kind of the only way you could go. So I think you're right to kind of fold it into a twofold category, which is we do one comeback and then one MIP, and they kind of are pretty similar in terms of improved performance, especially in a team that has very few impact players. And I think you're totally right.
That player too, so don't worry.
Oh, you do? I feel like Keon White's the most improved player.
Keyshawn Booty, baby. These ain't stopping me.
Let me. I'll let you say this in a minute because I don't. I think it's Keon White. Largely because again, I think you're he needs to sharpen a lot of his a lot of these elements of his game that aren't flashy. Let me just try to physically overpower and rush the passer. He can work on some finesse moves. He needs to work on his run defense. But when I was doing my little stat perusing for this episode, I was looking, and Keon White ranks in terms of edge rushers 20th in pass rush in terms of pass so he's in terms of getting to the quarterback, he's been a top 20 pass rusher in the NFL. Granted, a lot of that is kind of inflated by those first 4 weeks of the season. Yeah, the first 4 weeks he was we were seeing his name on ESPN. I saw Mina Kimes talk about him on ESPN, being don't count out Keon White when they were talking about how they wanted the Patriots to beat the Jets in week 3 or 4 or whatever it was. I don't remember now, but for sure he's definitely been improved. And again, when I think a fully healthy, knock on wood, we get him back, a fully healthy Barmore can completely unlock his side of the game. Oh. And you are right, Keon White being opposite Abdul Carter would be scary because again, that you have to devote a lot of attention to Abdul Carter. And look, I am. Earlier this week, I was a big Hunter guy. You were a big Abdul Carter guy. I just don't know anymore. I'm so confused every week. I lose the motivation. I would take Abdul Carter if we trade back, get some picks, second and third round picks additionally as well, maybe the first if we're lucky, and then we trade back up into the teens, and then we take Buka, and so that we have a guy that can operate. Yes, that can operate the middle of the field. That is as Bart said, and I agree with him, is what Jalen Polk is supposed to be, except he's a far better athlete than Jalen Polk, has better hands, is a better player. That's who we should be putting Drake May with, especially if we sign T. Higgins. Buka and Higgins would be a dynamic, group of additions to the receiving room. And you can't, with a straight face, tell me that Cam Scatterbo.
I want to see Booty in the middle of the field. I want to see Keyshawn Booty in the middle of the field. If you trade back up and you don't address the offensive line with either pick, I'm a Bengals fan again. You've done it. I'm out.
Your true colors have shown.
Yeah.
A tiger can never hide his stripes. And you, my friend, are a Bengals fan. Lucas used to have a Chad Ochocinco jersey behind him on that wall.
Giovanni Bernard as well. I'm not.
Gross. At least have Jeremy Hill, someone that touched the Patriots organization. Technically, Ochocinco did as well.
And Giovanni Bernard won a chip with young Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's on the Patriots though.
Okay, that counts. That's our 7th ring. Are you kidding?
I extend my happiness for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as far as Brady, Gronk, and a little bit Levante David because he's a dog. But the rest can go. And the Antonio Browns and all them can take a hike for all I care, my friend.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
now go
right.
Be a blowhard about Keyshawn Booty. Go on.
I don't think he's. Here's the thing, right? If you go out, you sign T. Higgins, you get Pop Douglas on the field more often. You need to actually learn how to freaking call plays in year 2. And Drake May keeps like running the ball well, and the offensive line gets better. Drake May keeps developing. Maybe the defense is a little bit better. Kayshon Boutte will at wide receiver 2 will not be your biggest problem next year. But that said, the man has turned up this year. Whenever they call on him, he gets open. And maybe there's a couple times where Drake's just taking shots to him, where it's just like, but that's more on Drake. That's not where the ball should be going. He's in double coverage. What do you mean? How is that?
Oh, I'm saying, it's the fact that that happens more than the jailbreaks against like Houston and against Buffalo. It proves that he's not actually getting open as much, and B, the ones where he is getting hit, he is also kind of. Well, it's not. He's not getting doubled. It's just because Drake is kind of throwing into too high, like a moron half the time, which is a Drake thing. But that's a rookie bump. Like that throw against Buffalo, Kayshon really wasn't that open. Like that's not elite separation. That's not elite athleticism. That is elite ball placement. And that was one of 2 high-profile downfield plays made by Kayshon Boutte this year that were like supposed to be momentum shifters. 2, one of which was against Houston, Drake May's first game starting when people kind of like, we're still getting used to having the guy out there.
And he did get separation on that one.
Boutte didn't start the first 2. Boutte basically came out with Drake May. Drake May propped Boutte up. And even half the time, half of Boutte's receptions where he was getting no separation, Drake was just absolutely firing it like a piss missile.
Kayshon Boutte is a dog, dude.
Was it the Indianapolis game where Kayshon Boutte decided to, like try to breadbasket a Drake? What game was it? It wasn't Indianapolis. That pick that our poor Lord Drake had to take because Boutte was getting
that's unfortunate. Like I'm not
that's on Boutte. We should cut him just for that.
That's unfortunate. Like things happen. You can't tell me he hasn't had a great year for a year 2 6th-round pick, coming off potentially a career-ending ankle injury. Like the kid has stepped up, and I'm looking forward to. Dude, he was like 18 years old. He was like the next guy at LSU, and like
he was a leader on LSU. He was a guy that they all loved in the building. I don't know. He was not the next guy.
He was the next guy, dude. I promise you.
He just was the oldest of a receiving group that had generational talent at like 2 levels.
No, this is before. Yes. This is before they were that like those guys. Like he was.
That's so cap, bro. But everyone knew that they were going to be like top 20 picks in the NFL draft, whereas Kayshon Boutte like probably like top 4 rounds, man. Like look, he was going to be high. The injury, but
for his freshman year, he was balling, dude.
No, I like Kayshon Boutte a lot. I think that your argument that he can be your number 2 is ridiculous, and I think that is a poverty franchise mentality to think like a poverty franchise. We don't have Tom Brady anymore. Like Tom Brady is the only way you can get away with Tom Brady and like a generational talent at tight end and Gronk are the only ways you can get away with having that guy as your number 2 receiver and contend in a division that has the Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins will see.
Contending next year. I can tell you that much.
I'm not saying contending for a championship. I'm saying contending for an AFC title race. As in, like, we will be like a wild card team because it's almost better for us to try to win the AFC East because you're going to have to be playing teams like Baltimore, or by playing, I mean like fighting for wild card spots. There's only 3 of them with like teams like Cincinnati, Baltimore, the Steelers, maybe Miami. We'll see how that goes.
It's great to want to win the AFC East, but you're not beating Buffalo.
I think there's almost easier to win for Buffalo to have a down year than for us to somehow be better than all of like the Chargers, like the Broncos, like all of these teams that have much better talent than us and that are almost guaranteed, wild card berths. Like we're so screwed but what I'm saying is we're also not going to we're not making the playoffs next year. I'm going to say it right now. Y'all can hear it. No shot we're making the playoffs next year. Let's be realistic.
This clip's going to come back to bite you in the butt, dude.
I don't care.
And it's right on the freaking TikTok.
Go for it. I do not care. We're not making the playoffs. Look at the AFC. The AFC is loaded, dude. Like we have like what 7 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, and that's probably being generous.
Yeah.
What?
Probably more than that.
Right now, it's like if you can argue you can argue Darnold. Goff is a lock. Jaden Daniels I don't know if I'll give him the credit yet because he's really young, but like other than that, you're playing against the best quarterbacks in the NFL, all in the AFC. And again, like the wild card race in the AFC is going to be one of the most fascinating storylines in the next 5 years. It is just so like Mahomes and Herbert in the same division. We're going to have Allen and May in the same division. We have Lamar in the same division as Joe Burrow, and a Steelers team that always seems to play chippy and somehow eke out a double-digit win season, no matter what the hell you put in front of them. It's just
The best
ridiculous.
receiver in the league playing for Jacksonville. It's going to be competitive. That's all I'm here.
Now go on, keep talking. I'm done. I'm done.
All right. After that,
ridiculous. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson exist. You wrong LSU receiver.
We'll see.
We will see. Lawrence, I don't even believe in Trevor Lawrence like that. And
he's quarterback proof.
Honestly, I think they're just spamming him with Mac Jones. Christian Kirk's been injured. They really, the room is falling apart. Calvin Ridley isn't there. They have nothing else to do because ETN literally can't find a hole in a pack of Swiss cheese. Like he's not playing well. Tank Bigsby is the only other bright spot on that entire team. Like their team is reliant on rookies right now. But I agree. Brian Thomas is a great player. I think you're right. He has potential to be, top 5 maybe, whatever. I still think you forget. I think people are forgetting who that dog Malik Neighbors is because he happens to be at the most dysfunctional organization. And I swear to God, this is another rant I was about to go on. I swear to God, this is my biggest nightmare. If for some reason, some way, shape, or form, we end up sticking with the number 1 pick, we know we're going to take Travis Hunter, and Robert Kraft sees fit to sell out the heart and soul of the New England franchise for a Hard Knocks, I would end it all. I'd jump right out that window. If we got a Hard Knocks, I would cry. That is a hallmark of a poverty franchise. Look at how much of an asshat Joe Schoen made himself look like on that freaking Hard Knocks. And
you
just
look the off-season one. I do the training camp one for sure.
I still wouldn't do that either because Bill Belichick refused to do it for 25 years, and that seemed to be a pretty damn good strategy. And I know that we're not Bill Belichick's Patriots anymore, but God, dude, that the distraction of I've never known a team to have a good season after doing a Hard Knocks. Never. This Bears team, look at how much this in-season one, how much of a joke it was. See, HBO is starting to get a little greedy, and they're like, let's do 2 different in-season ones. Let's do an off-season one. Hell, let's do a Hard Knocks toilet cam where we just watch Brian Dable take fat turds. It's so stupid the amount of, the willingness of the NFL to hoe itself out over and over again throughout the course of a season, off-season, draft process. We need to build on a young core. We do not need the distractions of cameras.
Hard Knocks is awesome.
Yeah, Hard Knocks is great because I got to watch mediocre franchises continue to make the same mistakes and trying to keep themselves relevant. The Patriots are not you know what organization is never going to do a Hard Knocks? Green Bay. Green Bay is never going to be seen dead doing a Hard Knocks. Yeah, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed in the Steelers and Ravens. I think that they were able to get away with it because it was a 4-team Hard Knocks. But I think Hard Knocks is there's never been the 49ers would never do a Hard Knocks. At least not,
good. That's all these teams are good.
But the 49ers either miss the playoffs or go to the conference championship every year. So they have been not good a lot since 2000.
Yeah, I haven't seen stipulations that you have to get to even be up in the air to be on Hard Knocks, especially the training.
You have to be bad because those are the only teams desperate enough to be on Hard Knocks.
Well, it'd be cool, man. Yeah, take a jump though. It'd be cool.
No, it wouldn't, dude. No, it wouldn't.
Drake would be hysterical in Hard Knocks.
I don't want it, dude. I don't want it. Real G's move in silence like lasagna, brother. If you ain't gonna listen to me, listen to freaking Lil Wayne, bro. We can't be on a Hard Knocks.
All right, let's
49ers never appeared in a Hard Knocks.
Let's get the Patriots awards. Hard Knocks is awesome. We're gonna disagree to disagree.
You are a media darling. I miss
football, man.
That's not football. That's freaking keeping up with the crappy organizations. That's Kardashian baloney, dude. Football. I don't want.
By that time in the offseason,
that's narratives. Just the ego of people in front offices to want to attract that sort of attention. Joe Schoen wanted this Hard Knocks all for himself, for him to be a guy that's making moves in a pivotal offseason. And this will forever come back to haunt him. It'll come back to haunt the Mara family. Honestly, the only person who might have benefited is Dable because it kind of makes Dable look like a sacrificial lamb in this organization. And I still think he's in good standing with a lot of teams and upper management guys in the NFL. And I think he obviously is a future. maybe even with the Patriots again. Who knows? If we're going to bring back any dynasty guy, I'd bring back Dable in some capacity. But, man, that's my rant.
All right, let's get back to these awards. I mean, we got like what 26 minutes left. You want to go an hour and 30? Like,
I mean, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Are you? You're on call today. You get the nod?
No. Well, my the person that I was considering like taking a shift from, she just texted me that her paycheck was lower than she thought, so she's gonna take the shift, which is honestly fine because I work a double tomorrow, and I feel like there was something I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch random old James Bond movies today. I don't know why. It's a side note, but
I was gonna ask.
I was getting in the mood.
If
any, oh yeah, well, I definitely
played
2K.
Yeah.
I played 2K this morning as I was doing research. Come on now.
That's awesome.
Dude, I got to get to 85 overall. It's been a hard grind. I'm at 84 now. I'm not quite there yet, but you know.
All right. You guys know it's too much about us now. Like, all right. You got like.
Sorry, you guy. You got the one guy that commented that we should take Bo Scadaboo in the draft. Shows what he knows, dude.
My boy.
You guys, you and that dude probably flip on Bleacher Report for 5 minutes a day and get your narrative for the Patriots for the entire season.
Oh, that's a shot. That's a shot. Yeah, I pull up Nick Wright and I say, "Feed me, Dad."
I get my what did Justin Bieber? I get my light straight from the source. Nick Wright trying down on me.
Please, sir, some more bad takes.
Yeah, please, sir.
All right, I got like worst player on each side of the ball.
No. Do rookie of the year first.
Rookie of the year
/ offensive player. I think it's. Let's move on, but let's just say who it is. It's Drake May. All right, moving on.
Defensive player of the year, rookie of the year.
He's 17th in the league in QBR, which is like it's literally he is at the cutoff of like good quarterbacks and mediocre quarterbacks. It's kind of funny. Like it literally goes like Tua, Baker, Drake, which is a fine company to be in to start the year, and then it starts getting like sketchy right beneath there. I don't want to compare those guys, but I'll take 17th right now. What's up?
Compared to like other Patriots rookie quarterbacks, this is kind of what I forgot I even wanted to do.
I mean, Mac Jones is probably pretty high in QBR, but he also was asked to do a lot less with a lot more, so I don't really take that with a grain of salt.
56.9. Drew Bledsoe.
I thought he had 59. Oh, who are you talking about?
This is Mac Jones. 66 or 56.9.
Drake is 59, allegedly.
65.
So says PFF.
88.3 according to Pro Football Reference, which I don't necessarily trust. I could probably go to a different one.
But the thing is, half these quarterback stats are like QBR, like is different from like quarterback. Like what's the other one?
He didn't even keep his QBR
rating.
Drew Bledsoe's. Never mind.
Look at the just look at PFFs.
Nah.
Just because that's what I've been using for stats the entire time. I'm
a PFF hater.
No, PFF sucks, and the fact that they're behind a paywall infuriates me because it's already like half the stuff they do is meaningless. Beep beep. But
I can be.
Yeah, like they have a.
Here, let me clip that actually.
But I feel like QBR is relatively arbitrary. I guess his overall grade they have him as a 70.4, which is 37th out of 71 quarterbacks.
That's not great.
Not great. He's 22nd in passing touchdowns, 23rd in yards.
And like for like not playing the first 5 weeks, and then like not bad. Like
yeah,
he's been.
They have him 9th in terms of rushing grade.
Oh, Margaret just tried to jump up on the counter and just missed.
she just ate. Beep.
Let me mark that one too.
108. Dude, what? It's crazy. You and I, like, we'll get. I mean, obviously, we kind of got a little heated, which I like some of our arguments that we're able to recreate here, unplanned. But once it hits that hour mark, you and I just start to lose all sort of. No, but it makes it more entertaining, I would think. You know, people that don't actually talk to us about how. I think Colby might be our most active listener. Much love to Colby Richardson, soon to be non-rating champ of the A-League in fantasy football. You put that hand down. You be afraid of my lines.
Well, either way, like as long as it's not Colby, I'll be.
Yeah. As long as it's not Miki Morin, dude. I don't give. I respect Colby. I don't know the Miki guy from Adam, dude.
True.
No, but yeah. No, you're definitely gonna win that A-League. But yeah, I mean, dude, the amount of inactives and like
No,
ceremonial starts I have going this week, I'm so screwed. I'm worried about B League too because I gotta downgrade James Cook. I gotta downgrade Puka Nakua. Justin Jefferson gonna have to carry me in that game.
that's gonna be maybe the game of the year, to be honest with you.
It is. I mean, in terms of implication, you're what, 1 or 5 seed. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That is insane.
And if Detroit loses, like that's crazy. Like I love me some
Yeah,
beef
yeah.
flow, but like
I mean, I am honestly one of the saddest things that's happened to, I think, from a football narrative standpoint, is this is like Detroit's best year to be competitive, given where their coordinators are and where they won't be next year, and how retooled like some of their how retooled the roster was, and I think Jared Goff really coming into his own. And obviously, you can point to a lot of different things on the defensive side of the ball. You have some bright spots like the Kirby Josephs of the world, but it really sucked that Aiden Hutchinson, who is a Detroit native, went to Michigan, drafted top 2 by the Lions. Like, that is such a cool story. And in a year where they are in most contention for the Super Bowl, for him to go out when he's leading the league in sacks, like I feel like that isn't talked about enough. And I think that, much love to Aiden Hutchinson. And I hope for their sake that they're able to pull through. And because I'd rather the Lions than any AFC team or NFC team win the Super Bowl. But that hurts that a guy like that can't be a part of a Super Bowl run, given how much he means to the state of Michigan. So that's kind of a sappy thing to talk about, but that's one of those narratives that just like I work with. I guess a manager for me is a Michigan guy, and he was bummed about that too. Like I talked to him about it. I was like, "Yo, this is something that actually like it hurts me to see." And he just kind of dropped his head a little bit. Like he didn't even say, he was just hurt. He was just hurt by it, which I feel for him.
No, I mean, for a guy who's just was so good at the beginning of the season, like you said, Michigan, Detroit native, like that's tough to see. And like they tried to make moves to get like Zadarius Smith, and like if they had actually been able to pull off that move, I don't even know if they tried to do the move for Crosby, but that would have been so cool. But
yeah, Crosby's going to be somewhere next year, and I don't think it's Vegas.
I hope not. How did we even get to this topic? That's my question. All
right. Game of the year, fantasy. Lion stack versus Lion stack.
But we were talking about Drake May at one, like being the offensive player of the year, and now we're like,
oh yeah, we're like he's pretty much everything. Well, we started going to the QBR of PFF, and then started. I don't remember.
It's not worth rehashing.
Yeah. All right. So
Decoy, we're not even talking about it. Y'all know.
Yeah, locked up. Look, there are 2 players that any sort of positive conversation is going to be centered around them.
Drake and Gonza, and then like if you want to throw Keon White in there, and then like, yeah, offensive player of the year, not rookie, and like not excluding Drake.
Hunter Henry. By far.
All right,
by far.
It's kind of frustrating.
Actually, yeah, let me not disrespect Henry. He has been a very big bright spot. Tired. Like, look, I think Kayshon Boutte has been a bright spot. He has been better than expected. He can't be your second best. Like, we can't take a receiver like T. Higgins that, compared to like a Jamar Chase, is slightly more one-dimensional, and then pair him with someone that is just like unpolished and unable to get a lot of separation in Kayshon. Like, you need an interior separator to pair with T. Higgins. That is what you need.
Top Douglas.
He's not an interior separator.
Top Douglas is definitely an interior separator.
The separation largely comes from scheme. Like, it largely comes from the same sort of pick plays and crap that's been exposing us.
He gets like almost 5 yards of separation, which is
why he should have at least like 700 yards receiving this season.
He is the leading reception guy on the team.
It's just been he's been disappointing this year. The reason why Boutte has been so, I think, positive is because we haven't seen the leap we wanted from Douglas. I went into the season being like, starting in 2025, Douglas can be our wide receiver too, and then we might be able to work with some stuff when it comes to signing or trading for a receiver. We have not seen that jump from Douglas this year, and I think we need him to be, like a third or fourth option on the offense for us to really get the most out of him. Same with Boutte.
Your leading receiver in yards, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, and then very closely trailed by Austin Hooper.
Wow. And he's really turned up towards the end of the season. Look, I will say, like, I can live And it's not for the same reason you're saying. Like, I don't think you can be a really successful passing offense with Kayshon Boutte as your second threat. However, if we're counting Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper as being Patriots next year, and you get a T. Higgins, then I'm more inclined to just be like, sell the farm for tackles. Just sell the farm for tackles. But again, I don't. You are nauseatingly high on Kayshon Boutte. Like, it makes me sick in the stomach.
With the clause that A, you're signing T. Higgins, and B,
which we both agreed is probably not going to happen.
and that changes everything. But like I just said that I'm scared that it's not going to happen. But like everything that I say is under the umbrella of that you've already signed T. Higgins, the umbrella. And
that umbrella got a whole lot of holes in it, my brother.
Well, okay, well, yeah,
seeing some rain on your forehead.
Draft Abdul Carter, plug that hole, and then you trade up and you get Connor.
And the T. Higgins umbrella, yes, Abdul Carter is a keyhole in the T. Higgins umbrella.
He is.
Look.
The pass rush is a huge issue.
Purely from an order of operations standpoint, maybe. But that just means that you need to trade back up in the first round for a receiver, or a tackle. But no, I think we can trade for it.
You're the one who doesn't want to see Vidarian Lowe or Trey Jacobs on the field.
I'm the one that doesn't think we should spend a top 5 pick on an edge rusher. I don't. Like, if we trade to 8 with the Raiders, then we can take a pass.
Abdul Carter's amazing. You got to see this guy.
No, he is amazing. Yeah. Like, he is amazing. I just don't like – there's so much wrong with the Patriots, like, in terms of health on the defensive front seven, that I think, like, putting in a guy that I still think has areas of his game that could use some polish, particularly in run defense, and, like, being a 3-down pass rusher, which is important. I don't know. Like, look, him and Keon White would be great. I just think, like, we're looking at, like, probably if we're being generous, like, one drive stop the game. Whereas, like, if you get, like, an actual receiver
all year, so.
If you get a receiver of note, you can have, like, 3 drives extended a game. That's how depleted we are on the offensive side of the ball. And for me, it's like, when you have Drake May, the more drives that we can convert and stay on the field, and when it comes to a red zone efficiency standpoint, that is the biggest leap we need to see from Drake May. We need people that can contribute in the red zone, and that, well, this is more so also an argument for the tackles that have continuously, been committing egregious penalties in the red zone as well. But this is why I'm like, receiver and tackle are the most important positions, and edge is a close third, but it's not quite there.
Well, I just think pure from like a value standpoint, like Abdul Carter's so much better than like.
From a value standpoint, sure.
If you want to talk to me about Ted McMillan, I'll actually tell you to go shove it.
But if we trade with Oakland, I'd take Ted McMillan. That just means we don't get T. Higgins. And it means we trade back up and try to get a Connerly, which I'd be honestly fine with. But, like, this is, again, we'd have to get a haul. We have to get a haul for that.
Yeah.
For me to be okay with us taking Ted.
It would be, you'd have to get, like, a first-round pick and then, like, a second and
Oh, dude, but Hunter and Higgins, then I could be like, then we have Pop Henry and then Kayshon Boutte. Actually, no. Hooper, then Kayshon Boutte in terms of the order of
the slander. The Kayshon Boutte Kayshon, you ever see this, man? I just want you to know I'm your biggest freaking fan.
Yeah, send Lucas a signed jersey. And
I actually just DM'd him on Instagram the other day. He wanted.
See, the thing is, you are a fanboy, and I'm a hyper realist. I'm a pessimist.
Stopping me.
They are though. Drake May is the only one that. Drake May has given that man a career. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. All right. We got to finish this up. We got 12 minutes.
We got. All right. So LVP, do we just go holistically with a least valuable player?
I know. You said that freaking the tackles are off. So Trey Jacobs is my LVP. But,
yeah, for sure. More than understandable.
John Jones is probably number 2.
Oh, okay. I went different.
Where'd you go? John Jones has been awful. For a defense that likes to play man as much as they do, like he's terrible. Yeah. I don't think he's got a place on this team as a safety anymore. Like he's all hailed at the altar of John Jones, great player throughout the dynasty. Same thing with David Andrews, but like it's time to go. It's cut the ties.
Oh, for sure. I think there's just so much negative with this team that it's like I can't really fault you for picking any of these guys. John Jones is a big one, but I think like. When it comes to John Jones, DeMontre Jacobs, or Darian Lowe, the writing was firmly on the wall. Dude, it was written in permanent ink before the season. We knew that Jonathan Jones had taken an athletic step back and that he declined. and that if you give him a certain type of role as a strong safety, that I think he can be serviceable, particularly if there are other areas of our secondary that have improved. And what happened is we didn't have a healthy Alex Austin for most of the season. We have undersized guys like John and Marcus Jones trying to like kind of do more than they should in a defense that was depleted of talent. These are things that I think we could have assumed heading into the season. How bad John Jones has been, you're right. I think that's a little disappointing, especially for how much he's loved in the building and how much he contributed over the course of the later dynasty years. But to me, like the least valuable player, specifically in relation to their contract, has been Kyle Duggar. Like he is, like every game I watch, I can. It's a little harder, I think, with Jonathan Jones to really pinpoint like specific plays where I feel like he's just because of how much we love to play man, but also the way we kind of intersperse some zone there. Sometimes it's like hard to know when it's some of the free safeties or linebackers in the middle of the field that aren't picking up men with Jonathan Jones, even though you're right, a lot of the time it is Jonathan Jones kind of missing assignments. But Kyle Duggar got the bag this year. Kyle Duggar went into this season with Barmore being out, with Peppers going on the exempt list, with Judon being traded, being our best defensive player in quotation marks. He needed to be the leader. That is with like the asterisk that we wanted to see what a healthy Gonzo would look like when he got back. So we now say by far Gonzo's our best defensive player. In a Barmore-less team specifically. But Kyle Duggar, egregious. If you want me to throw out another one of these PFF little grades I've been doing for the day, he has a 45.6 PFF grade, which is 155 out of 166 safeties. Yeah, his coverage grade, third worst in the NFL at 35.3. Third worst, the third worst coverage safety. And again, I think part of it, a little of it goes to Covington and Wolf and the guys that have forced people like Duggar, who should be meeting players at the line of scrimmage, that should very much be a physical point of attack safety, and have forced him into coverage spots, i.e. or e.g. the DK Metcalf blown assignment in the Seattle game, or like the Darius Davis touchdown last week that just, made me want to vomit in my pants and then put the pants on and then walk around town and do a little dance. Like, he is no pass breakups, no picks, one forced fumble. And again, we're forcing him to play as a coverage. Like, it's been bad. And he is getting paid the bag. It's been so bad. He has been, like, every game. It's like, and it's not even like, you're pissed it's like a 3rd and 2 and Kyle Duggar hasn't, he wasn't able to bring a running back down in the hole. He wasn't able to, he kind of, passed off an assignment wrong or wasn't able to pick up a guy crossing through the middle. It's like a touchdown every week. Like, it's generally red zone fallibility or like, on essentially in like the opponent's half of the field. It's egregious. The only area, and this just shows you where he should be playing, and I'm hoping for his sake, if he does come back, that if we don't trade him, that like we end up, with the return of Bentley, maybe investing in some safeties, because again, sneaky need, safety might be the most like sneaky need on this entire team. He ranked 18th out of safeties in terms of pass rush grade. So it shows you again, we need him, bringing down running backs and quarterbacks, although I'm not sure I necessarily buy that he's like going to be like a blitz heavy safety, but we don't need him, having to be assigned to DK Metcalf, let alone Darius freaking Davis. So that to me is the LVP, because I think commensurate to his value going into the season, to what we paid him, that we wanted him to be back, and especially because I think 2023 wasn't quite as good for him, but we were basically going off goodwill that he was going to really step it up this year, and he did not.
Just to defend him a little bit, like I hear all those things, and I don't think he's been good by any stretch of imagination. But I think a lot of the year he's been playing hurt, and I think at an ankle injury, like it's not you don't need to be a rocket scientist to tell that. Like if you were planting on a bad ankle trying to cover somebody, like that's gonna hurt, and it's probably not gonna be very effective. I think that's probably and like we said with Valerian Lowe and Trey Jacobs, like that's an indictment on the probably the personnel staff, because like he probably shouldn't be your coverage safety. Like a lot of the time, like
he should never be a coverage safety.
Well, if you want him to play like that robber, or like if you want him to be able to like play the middle of the field, like I think he's great. Yeah. He has been great for the last since we drafted him. He made an impact right away. Like I think he'd be better there, and like I think the coaching staff has probably used him really improperly, but like he's not
Partially.
so it's hard to
But a
argue.
lot of that is out of need, out of necessity. And you need a guy like that to step up or to, like,
Sure.
assert himself in certain areas of the
But
field.
even then, we didn't go in to the season with like a free, like a deep center field or free safety.
I'll agree. Like, I wanted more out of Jonathan Jones' transition to safety, hoping that it would free up some of Duggar's game. And I think, but at the same time, it's like we didn't have Peppers either for most of the season, or for a good chunk of the season. So it's like you almost expected him to have to be, different in his approach to the game, having to cover for both himself and Peppers, rather than like, oh, I got to cover for the fact that we, obviously don't have a McCourty back there. So it's like, I don't know. I agree with you that a lot of it is coaching and just personnel being depleted. But I think we've seen enough disappointing performances from Kyle Duggar. Like, you can be mediocre and not be an 11th ranked worst safety in the NFL due to Pro Football Focus. And again, this is just the PFF grade episode for me because we have very little to talk about in terms of what the hell we're going to see out of this Buffalo game. So I just decided to be a BS stats day. So
Sure.
do with that what you will.
You got anything else for the? I don't really have anything. If you have anything off the top, like, go for it. I could probably make some.
No, I mean, I was going to put honorable mention Jalen Polk, but like when it comes to the fact that it's like, it's almost like he's had so little impact in terms of even getting on the field that it's really hard to like have him be the worst player on the team when he's not even a player on the team, really. But given the hype going into the season, it's most disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even put that on him, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. He's been pretty disappointing. But
Bro,
we talked about last episode, Chuks Okorafor has, like, guy just quit on the team. Like, there's something to be said for that. Like, Jalen Polk's been off the rails, and he's been doing his Instagram stories and all that stuff. Like, and it's not encouraging. Let me just say that.
Who did you expect more from heading into the season? Emergency sign tackle, bottom of the barrel, Chuks Okorafor, who'd probably already been flirting with retirement, or your second round pick, Jalen Polk, that said he had the best hands in the league?
Like, Polk is gone. Like, I right from like the second week. Like, I don't.
Chuks is gone for me. Chuks is a non-factor now. I'm like, the fact that was even a solution is a problem.
Like, you could still, like, I know I just said he's cut. Jalen Polk could come out this week and have a very good year, or have a very good week.
He won't. He has a shoulder injury. He's not playing.
He can come out next year, and he could have a solid game week one, and I'd be right back on the Jalen Polk hype train. But
I need way more than that, buddy. Way more than that.
I need one good week with T. Higgins and freaking Kayshon Boutte doing their thing above him. But all right, you got anything else?
Below him, probably, but yeah. You and I are gonna have a Kayshon, and the thing is, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope
whenever you need me, we'll play some 2K,
man. I mean, we will probably argue, which is good. You wanted us to argue. Lucas has been trying to slut me out for the clip gods on social media, and you got it. You got it. You got a little needling in there. I'm trying to look at, because who is the other tackle?
That's all that matters.
At least there's some sort of reasonable,
I truly believe that Kayshon Boutte.
Do you remember Armon Watts? Remember Nick Leverett?
Oh, Nick Leverett! What a blast from the past.
Remember when Antonio Mafi was on the? Remember?
Did you see the clip of Drake going over and like he runs for the 41-yard scamper and then he goes over to the sidelines, like runs out of bounds, and Antonio Mafi's on the bench of the Indianapolis Colts and he's like, "What's up, man? What's up? Hey?" And then daps up Drake May.
Dude, I didn't know he was on the Colts.
Yes, I promise. You should look that clip up after this because it's genuinely one of the funniest things.
Remember when we thought City So was gonna, end up having an impact on this Patriots offensive line?
Sad. All right,
this is just such an indictment on Elliott Wolf. But let's.
Agreed.
So we got our end of season awards out of the way. Did you want to do? Well, I mean, we have 2 minutes. I guess if you want to stop at an hour and a half. We didn't really go over much draft talk, but I guess that's not a bad thing.
We got 4 months to do all that.
We got 4 months. The really only interesting thing to me was the Carson Beck declaring for the draft. Okay, bud. Jalen Milroe declaring is a little more interesting because I think, like, to me, there's kind of like the he's like a slightly more impactful. Like, he is better than Anthony Richardson was in college, but I hope teams, like, just for their sanity, are more, like, a little more measured in the way they approach guys like that than they were with Anthony Richardson, because that was a hilarious top 5 draft pick, and I don't think it'll ever work out for them. in Indianapolis, which makes me abundantly happy because screw Indianapolis. They lost me a freaking fantasy championship, and that game this season was probably the most painful when it came to actually having our hearts broken. And I'll always hate Jim Irsay. Screw Chuck Pagano. I don't even care that he survived cancer. Screw Chuck Pagano. Peyton Manning, the only Colt I have respected. Andrew Luck, the only other Colt I've respected. And both of them were done dirty by that stupid organization with its stupid, bitchy owner. And yeah, I just used the B word. Sorry. Jim Irsay can go walk the plank. I don't care. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This has been ExPats. We'll see you after the game.
Keyshawn Booty, trade him.